Hello, hi everyone. Welcome to the session. My name is Anish Shorkar, and I am an implementation consultant here at OpenLM. So today we are going to explore something that impacts almost every engineering company: the high cost of software. Now you invest heavily on the tools on your for your teams, but the reality is a lot of that software isn't actually being used. So in this session, we will show you how to uncover this hidden waste and more importantly, how to turn this into a measurable business value. So we will go step by step how to configure, what are the steps we can do, and what are the impacts we get after this. So yeah, before we dive into the problem itself, let me quickly introduce who we are. So OpenLM is one of the leading providers of software license management. We give organizations full transparency into license usage, help maintain the compliance, which is a very important factor, and identify wasteful spending, unnecessary license renewals. Now, we are trusted by Fortune 500 companies, government entities, and private organizations worldwide. Now, we have offices based out of USA, Moldova, Japan, India, and with this global perspective, we have faced many challenges, right? And one of the challenges that we have faced across almost all of the industries, that valuable licenses are sitting idle. They're silently draining budgets, right? So this we have analyzed across industries, for example, oil and gas, for aerospace, different kind of industries, this challenges is being faced. So here's the situation. Like your license server assumes that if a license is checked it around 8 hours, it might be utilized fully for 8 hours. But we know the reality. That's not the true factor. Let's take an example. Like think of it as like an office building. Like everyone arrives around 9 and leaves at 5. The lights are all on day. But in reality, people are in lunch away from their desks. So software usage works in the same way. The license looks occupied, but in reality, much of that time is idle. The illusion of full license usage hides a significant amount of waste that we are uh, wasting during procurement or during buying unnecessary licenses. So that brings us to the real impact of holding on to licenses that aren't being used. Idle licenses are like treadmill running with nobody on it. Like the power is consumed, the machine is busy, but no real progress is made. So, what are the consequences when our licenses are sitting idle? The projects get delayed because other team members can't access the tools they need when one is sitting idle. Now, what happens is that to compensate this, management often purchases additional licenses. This drives up the cost. Now, along with that, this allows the engineers to hoard the licenses. Now, this cycle wastes money, slows productivity, and directly impacts the bottom line. Now, here's where you notice the idle session. Now, we have gone into the OpenLM interface. You can navigate directly to the OpenLM interface, and from the navigation button, you click on the process manager, and on the process manager, you see this active license option. Now, from the active sessions window, what we can see? We see the moment an application meets an idle criteria, it's flagged with a running timer. And you exactly see the user, the machine, the application, and exactly how long it has been idle. This active sessions acts as a live command center. And to enable this functionality, we can enable this idle time functionality using a lightweight component which is known as OpenLM Workstation Agent. Now this OpenLM Workstation Agent will be installed on the end user machines, and this agent runs silently in the background with minimal impact on the performance and provides the accurate idle time data that you see. So the agent is responsible for idle time monitoring as well as harvesting the idle licenses that we will see later. Now, so before that we were collecting the sessions that were idle. Now OpenLM provides you with a BI dashboard. Now there are different kinds of BI dashboards that you will get with OpenLM. So one such BI dashboard I have presented to you. So the dashboard gives you clarity on where the licenses is being wasted. You see which applications are the most idle. Also, you see the users that are holding the licenses, and the exact session details are noted on the table on the bottom right corner. So with this dashboard, you can instantly spot the waste and take the actions. Now that we have seen the problem, let's look at the solution. So when we go to the solution we provide as an OpenLM is automated license harvesting. So that means, so you don't have to directly manually encounter any manual functionality. We have automated license harvesting. Okay. So now the OpenLM license harvesting feature releases the idle licenses back to their respective license pools, allowing other users to utilize the same number of licenses. In other words, you can free up licenses that are being held by users in applications that aren't active. For example, suppose you have a license pool of 10 and 8 of the licenses are being used. Now, from directly from the license server, you can see that 8 are in use. Now, you think that every 8 licenses are being utilized properly, but that's not the case actually. Some of the users might be idle. And when 3 more users try to check in the license pool, 2 of them will get the license checkout, but one user will get the denial. So that user is getting restricted from using the license, whereas one user is sitting idle and taking the license. So this is the major problem that we face, and this is the license harvesting method that helps us to avoid this problem. Now this is an automated, right? And it is consistent. So we do not have to chase people manually. The result is maximum license availability and more efficient use of your existing investment. Now, of course, now every application is not the same. Now that's where OpenLM has introduced 3 license harvesting methods. Now, these license harvesting methods are specific to specific applications. Now, first, let's see, we have save and close method. Now, this is very critical for applications like ArcGIS, SolidWorks, AutoCAD, MATLAB, CATIA, all these type of applications. We use the method save and close. Now, what happens in this method? So OpenLM automatically saves the user's work and then closes the application to release the license. And what happens? This prevents the data loss that if you close the session automatically. So the save feature is there, and then OpenLM closes the software. Now, second comes the suspend and resume. Now, this is basically possible with the FlexLM based licenses. That means when you are using FlexLM as your license manager, you can directly use this feature of suspend and resume. So what happens that whenever a user or a workstation is detected with idle time, the suspend and resume is applied on it and the idle app is frozen and the license is released to the pool. Now, when the user returns back to work, the users can directly take charge because they can directly get the license from the personal dashboard that they have. So let me clear it again. So we have said that we use workstation agent. for monitoring idle licenses. And along with the workstation agent, we provide end user services. Now, with this end user services, you get a personal dashboard. That means every user can see their workflow. And directly from the personal dashboard, they can charge back the licenses whenever they want or resume the licenses whenever they want. And finally, we have a stricter option, which is kill. Now, this immediately shuts down the application without saving the application. Now, this is best reserved for strict enforcement scenarios. Okay, so now the question is that we have discovered that when the user is idle, we are doing this idle time method. But how do we define a session idle? Like, what are the criterias? So let's discuss that. So here we set the clear rules when the licenses should be released. For example, with MATLAB, if pool usage is above 80%, that means suppose the pool is in demand and you set the parameter to 15 minutes. That means after 15 minutes, if the user is still idle, then it would release the license back to the pool. So you have two cases. So first one is the utilization factor of your pool. So if your utilization factor is more, that means the pool is in demand. And second case, if the user is idle for more than 15 minutes. So if the both the cases are met, then the license will be releasing the licenses back to the pool. Now, one question may come that if a process is still rendering in background, for example, CC Studio. In CC Studio, what happens that we open the application, we run the code, and we minimize the screen. The code is running on the background. There is background coding involved in that case. So, should the license be fetched back to the pool or should it be in the setup? Actually, it should be in the setup, right? But you say, how do we analyze whether the session is idle or not? So we have a feature in Workstation Agent by which we can monitor the processor usage. So in the screen, what you can see is on the right hand side, on the advanced settings, you see there are some thresholds there. So you can set a processor threshold. That means if an application, when rendering something, gets over the processor threshold, then we will not consider it as an idle session. For example, CC Studio, if suppose CC Studio is running on your background, and in that case, the CPU usage is around 5%. So OpenLM detects that if it's greater than 3, which we have set up now, if it's greater than 3, then we will not consider it as an idle. So you can directly set up this threshold from yourself, from your application upon the usage you use. So this is basically what you can set it for yourself according to your need. Now, this ensures licenses flow back into circulation exactly when needed without any interrupting or without any manual harvesting method. Now, the payoff comes in 5 key areas. We have discussed about the processes, everything we have discussed. Now comes the payoff. So first is accurate tracking. Now, we have earlier discussed that you see the illusion that the usage is around 9 hours or 10 hours, but actually it doesn't happen. Accurately, you can track with this OpenLM workstation agent, and OpenLM can distinguish between what is the true usage and what is an idle usage. The second, improves productivity. Now, when an idle application is taken back to the pool, what happens is that another user in that pool can access the license, right? So this increases the productivity. This reduces the license denials, the scenario I have explained you earlier, and this keeps your project moving without any interruptions. Now, third, we have optimized ratios. Now, We have case studies for that. Many organizations moves from 4 users per license to 6 users per license or more. So we are stretching the value of every license that you buy. Now, fourth, we have no more license hovering. So what happens is that when you allow this license idle licenses, users generally trust that licenses will be available and users start hoarding. So with this OpenLM license harvesting, users will stop holding on to them all day. And finally, cost savings. Now with better utilization, you can delay or avoid new license purchases. Earlier, what happened that whenever you get a lot of denials, you try to purchase some new unnecessary licenses on your next procurement. But when you realize that some of them are idle and you are able to do idle harvesting, what you can do, you can reduce the number of purchases on your next renewals. So also you can reduce the ongoing maintenance costs. So overall, it impacts the cost sections very much.